So we have made these avances. We have all broken through on one level or another. When you look at the state of Latino identity now, I mean, look, my little girl knows who Jennifer Lopez is. You know, and talks about, do I have a big butt, mommy? Do I have a big butt? And she's only 7. But how do you, looking critically at the presence of Latinos, let's say, in the mainstream, so what, is that also in your view the U.S. Mambo? We're still doing the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or?
I think everybody has to take it on their own, individually. I mean, there's no fixed rule for anyone. But I think you have to be true to whatever your ideals are.
But do you, when you look at Hollywood,
yeah,
is it being better in terms of Latino representation, or?
Not much better, no. Not much, because the images that are out are still violent. Again, we've been trying to get the Cesar Chavez story made as a film for years, even since before Cesar was alive. Hollywood is not the place to look for the history of labor in America. They're basically anti-labor. You got to know that. You're dealing with executives that deal in multi-millions of dollars, and they don't like all the unions that they have to deal with, so they're not about to espouse the struggle of the working class in America. Unless it happens to be about labor racketeering. They love that shit. You know, that they love. And on the waterfront, labor racketeering, you know. The only recent exception possibly is Norma Ray, but that is...
Mate One.
Yeah.
John Sayles movie.
Mate One, I introduced that when it was first produced, yes?
Mark the Cradle as well.
Okay. A few, now, how many movies against those, you know, have been made or not made? The fact is that this is a country that refuses to acknowledge labor history because it's about the other side of the equation. We all have this pretense that somehow we can all grow up to live in castles and be kings and queens. You understand? Just like the people that the revolutionaries overthrew to make this the United States of America.
Right.
But as far as everybody being the immigrant working class that built this country, that is out, you see? So we have to defend that. That's why I believe in workers' theater, and I believe in theater that represents the true interests of the majority population in the United States of America.
And I can just see Congressman Grijalva saying, yes, and I'm going to vote to pass that bill on the floor in Congress. Not necessarily. Let's open it up, because we can talk forever amongst ourselves, but I really do want to include you all. So I guess there are microphones there. Just please. Just ask
Yes,
the
my
question.
name is Ignacio Castuera. I'm a pastor, a Methodist pastor, and Dolores mentioned the Presbyterians, didn't mention the Methodists.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. And you're one
But
of
I
the
want to
true
bring
ones.
2 comments very quickly. One is very specifically about Dolores and the wonderful leader and true feminist, proto or not proto, you know, feminist that she is, and the other brief comment about the church. And one is that Dolores is one of the very few eloquent and powerful voices that is working to make sure that our Latino community is not divided by those who want to talk about the homosexual persons as if we did not have hermanos, primas, tios, and relatives that are gay and lesbian. And I'm really proud of you for doing that. And especially right now in California, with all of the issues that we're confronting there, I'm very honored to count you as a leader of the community. And I'm also very, very happy that Cesar's granddaughter is working also on the marriage equality issues as well. And that's typical of Cesar, because if you remember, Cesar provided right there in Delano a place of respite for people like Carlos Almaraz, who was struggling with his sexual identity while at the same time painting some of the best paintings that this country has ever produced. Mm-hmm. And so I want to again just thank you very much for being that great leader in our community, and not just the Latino community, but throughout the United States. You keep on refusing to let people make us push our parientes, our own blood out of our own homes just because their sexual orientation is different. And that leads me...
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That leads me to talk about the church. And while it is true that what we said about the church coming around and helping, the reality is that we always have had two churches: the churches of the monjitas and the sacerdotes and the pastores, that were right there from the very beginning with Cesar, and also the hierarchical church that is far more interested in precisely the kinds of things, Luis, that you say we should not be co-opted by, and kowtow into the powerful of this nation and of the world, to the Opus Dei types of members of the hierarchy.
Okay.
And again, the issue of homosexuality is coming again with that. Look at the persecution of homosexuals in the seminaries right now, confusing our own people more. We've been trying to tell them people who molest children are not gay people. That's a different kind of an issue.
Let me ask
And
you,
in our community, that's a real problem.
did you have a question?
Well, no, I said from the beginning I wanted to make a comment and just say thank you again to Dolores for the wonderful things that she
Thank
has
you. I do want to add to that, though, and at least we'll remember when we all in the union, we used to go down to People's Bar,
Absolutely.
which was owned by Caesar's comadre, Mocha, right? Who was a lesbian. And right from the very beginning, we were always supportive of gay rights from day one in the United Farm Workers. And we marched in the first parades, the first gay pride parades in San Francisco and in West Los Angeles. So we made a special button. It had a little eagle with a pink triangle on it.
Wow. So advanced.
If I may, I'm a Catholic, and but no booze, please. I'm a Catholic, and I find it interesting that we get these rankings as members of Congress, and the church and the social justice and immigration, workers' rights, health care, universal health care, boom, boom, boom. We do so well. Then there's these two litmus tests that if you happen to want, that you need to deny a woman's
Right. Jeez.
right to reproductive decisions in her own life, or you want to ban gay people from the ability to be gay people, then therefore you are knocked off the scale. And the argument with my church is this: so we're 100% on everything that matters of consequence to the people, and on two issues we are eliminated from that consideration. So you could have some person that is correct on those two, horrible on the other 10, and those two carry the day. Unbelievable.
Well, I think it is important that I think as we move forward as a Latino community, the level of complexity of the dialogue within the Latino community, and I talk about this a lot, we have to look at our own homophobia, we have to look at our own racism, our own sexism, our own anti-Semitism. We have to talk about these issues publicly. And I didn't know about the presence of the UFW and the position, so I'm floored.
Hola. Buhay.
Hi.
My name is Paul Martin. I'm a member and actual current field representative for a friend. Dolores is a friend of my local SEIU, Local 535, started in 1965 in Los Angeles and in Northern California. We've been active in supporting UFW for a long time. I'm just saying that as an introduction. I just wanted comments on Victories, because you mentioned that, the world has changed and things don't seem to be happening. But I wanted to point out victories that we've had and have some comment on it. One is the Taco Bell, where the United Students Against Sweatshops worked together with the farm workers in South Florida, in Homestead, and got the boycott going for against Taco Bell, and were able, just in the last many years of strike, to get real wages and a real change in working conditions for those people. And recently, UFW fought a great battle against Gallo Wines in Sonoma and had a great victory there. So even though there are many down things that we see in the right-wing politics, there are many victories, and I think we need to think about the victories that we have. There are still unions out there. And another, just if you have a little comment is your feeling about the split. I don't think we can talk about labor today without talking about the split, and Dolores, your feeling about change to win versus the FL. So
Well,
both the victories and the change in labor.
Well, there is an incredible, I mean, this SEIU started about the same time the farm workers did, and now they have 1 million members, you know. And people in Los Angeles know that there's been big strikes, justice for janitors, the healthcare workers, hospital workers, and there's a big labor movement out there. You don't hear about it because the media's not going to report it. And you know, we were all part of the big peace march, right, that happened here on Saturday. Like, that was enormous. We had 1,400,000 women marching in Washington a year ago on April 25th, the largest march in the history of the United States of America. It got one day of news. The largest march in the history of the United States, all women, okay? And of course a lot of male feminists, but the thing is that there's a lot of stuff going on out there right now, but the press is not reporting it. And I do believe that we are seeing a resurgence, but people don't know. I mean, look at all of the protests at the World Trade Organization, right? All over the world, the students are marching, so there is a movement out there, but you know, it's not being reported. And if we go back to remember the beginnings of the civil rights movement, it wasn't being reported either, you know? It was all pretty quiet. I remember being out there in the beginning of the war, the movement against Vietnam. It was very quiet. But on the AFL-CIO, the split there, I do believe that the unions that have left the AFL, that have formed Change to Win, are the unions that are organizing. And so I think that they're going to show that the labor movement can be saved, because we are losing the labor movement in the United States of America. And the labor movement is what creates the middle class. You cannot have democracy if you do not have a middle class. And this is what labor does. It creates a middle class. And so we are in a danger of losing our democracy. And the people who have had the foresight to say we've got to start doing something about it have formed Change to Win. And those unions that have left the AFL-CIO are now together to continue their organizing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank Ms. Huerta for pointing out the fact that the Filipino workers, from way back until now, have always devoted their life to their work. It's second nature to the people. And it's a people that has no ambition for grandstanding. And this is cause for our invisibility. I would like to ask a question, if you could please enlighten me. I'm a playwright by avocation. I know about the Campesino Theater. I met the group in Nancy, France, at the festival there. I was very taken by the group. My question is this. I'd like to know more about Philip Vera Cruz, who was part of your movement, or before your movement. Why he disappeared from the scene, why he retired from that scene. I use retire in quotes because after Cesar Chavez was very successful in the strikes and in the worker movement, the man disappeared. I was writing a play about him, and I get very few documentation on the man, except the book that he himself was either interviewed or something that he wrote. So could you give me some picture of the man himself?
Well, Philip Vera Cruz was one of the people that was very active in the union. Philip was, many of the leaders of the union had been crew leaders, and Philip was one of those people, was a crew leader. And Larry Young was also a crew leader, you know, but they made up the leadership of the organization along with Imutan. And the person who really gave his entire life until he died was Velasco, who was the Secretary-Treasurer of the United Farm Workers. He was Filipino also. We used to call him Brother Penny. Right? And it was interesting because there had been a little bit of conflict when they two groups merged, and some people like Gaines decided to leave, and they went in the team union and left our group. He was of an actual, I would say, than activist. He made a lot of points of always writing everything down at meetings and whatever, and always reflecting on things. He was a very great orator. He could really speak very well, and that's one of the things that he did. He would go out to the colleges and to public places, and so I think that's why he's really well known among the students. And that's pretty much what he did. And when he left the union, he actually just retired. He didn't, he was still there in Rich Grove where he lived until he passed away. But I guess that's about all I can say about him is, you know, he was there for a long time. And maybe Andy could add some comments too, because Andy worked with Philip, of course, longer than even before we did, you know. But sometimes he got very bitter, I should say that though, and he was always very critical for some reason. He was always had kind of a little chip on his shoulder, I would think, you know.
Well, I was asked that question a long time ago by so many Filipinos about Philip, and my answer was no comment. I cannot comment because if I say something, he cannot protect himself.
That's the way.
You see, he's dead now.
Yeah.
So I would rather not comment because, what do you call that?
Respect, out of respect.
Out
right?
of respect.
Okay.
But
Oh, but Reese wants to say
Yeah,
something.
I'd like to say, Philip Vera Cruz was one of my big friends in the strike. And I had many long conversations with him on the picket line, because he was an intellectual. He considered himself a socialist.
Ah.
This is something that he would not talk about in Delano, especially, you know, publicly. So that was his perspective, but his heart was in the right place. He had a very active and agile mind, well-read, self-educated, very aware of the larger issues, the worldwide issues. The history of California, the Filipino worker, the Philippines,